And joining us now for our regular Friday night chat about the economic issues of the week is Economics correspondent Stephen Long. And Stephen, sovereign debt problems have really been the dominant theme of the week, I think, both Europe and the US. And if we look at Europe first, Ireland's debt downgraded to junk status, worries about Italy. How serious are those problems?
Ali, I don't think that Ireland is a major problem, at least the downgrading to junk status, because it confirms what we already knew, that Ireland's a basket case. No new information there, won't be a big deal. Italy's a different story. If it were to get into serious sovereign debt problems and the cost of funding its debt is approaching unsustainable levels, then that's a big deal because it is such a large economy in Europe. If we were to see Italy or Spain go down, it changes the whole ball game. No inevitability about that, but it's a serious concern.
And I suppose in that context, how long can the European Union continue to throw money at this?
I don't think it's sustainable that they throw money at Italy or Spain. Basically, they're too big to bail, but too big to fail. So it's a dilemma. What do you do if it reaches that situation? I saw an analysis during the week from the chief economist at a major European bank saying that the European bailout money would have to rise to 7 trillion euros were the contagion to spread to all of the so-called pigs economies, including Italy and Spain. And that would effectively mean, because Germany is the mainstay, that it would be paying 28 to 30% of its GDP out, and it would have its own debt crisis, as would potentially France and the Netherlands. So it just can't happen. So there is no answer if it gets that bad. We're in dire straits. Now, if it's contained just to the peripheral economies, Portugal, Ireland, Greece, that's potentially manageable, as is the fallout for the banking system, a few $100 billion, unless there's panic. And the sentiment issue, of course, can be divorced from the actual reality. Banks might be able to sustain the losses, but if there's panic about the situation of the banks, and incidentally, the stress testing of 91 European banks comes out overnight, it's said to be far more stringent than the previous stress tests seen as a whitewash, could expose some cracks.
And as you say, if it's all about sentiment, it could in fact become a self-fulfilling reality, if you like.
A source of financial instability, yes. Yeah.
If we look at the US, Moody's and Standard & Poor's are threatening to downgrade the US national debt. Now, this is pretty crucial, isn't it? Because we're, only 2 weeks away from the August the 2nd deadline to lift that debt cap, that debt ceiling?
That's right, Ali, and I think that this is, in effect, a shot across the bows of the US Congress to lift the cap in the short term so that the US can manage the situation and it won't be seen under any threat of default. Long term, of course, it's a different story because the US just doesn't tax its citizens enough to maintain its spending, and it has a huge debt and an unsustainable deficit and an ageing population, and potentially it could be insolvent over the long run unless it addresses it.
I think we're going to hear a lot more about what's going on in the US in the next 2 weeks. Absolutely. Stephen Long, many thanks.
You're welcome, Ali.